Welcome into Moving the Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside Jerel Hendricks here for our Week 10 South Carolina High School Football Recap Show presented by Folly Road. Jerel, typically at this point, we are done with the regular season, getting ready for the playoffs. You know, the brackets are set. We're getting pumped for these, not really round one games, but round 2 and 3 games to kind of see what's going to come down the pipeline. But this year, with the extension, we got a whole another week of regular season coming up next week before we get into the playoffs as November really gets rolling here.
Yeah, usually the hay's in the barn at this point, but we got blessed with another week of football. We'll look at it that way. But Week 10 was awesome, man. You did see some region championships crowned, lower part of the state. Obviously, a lot of them are completely done. They get a bye week before going to the playoffs. But we still do have some primetime matchups that we'll get to Tuesday. But right now, let's talk about Week 10 because it was a lot of fun.
No doubt about it, guys. Follow us here on Facebook, on Twitter, on X, on Instagram, YouTube, all that at Movin Chains, movingchains.com, podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Like Jerel mentioned, our live preview show Tuesday night about 7:15. Tune into that on Facebook and YouTube. Our recap show comes out on podcast platforms on Sunday or Monday. Coach interviews, player interviews, all that kind of great stuff too coming for you guys here as we get ready for the playoffs here shortly. Get your Movin the Chains merch, your toboggans, your hats, your T-shirts, your hoodies. Really good stuff, all posted on our social pages. You can check them out there and make an order on any of those websites or social media platforms. But before we get started, Jerel, I'll get a quick shout out to some friends of the program.
Put Founders in the game and win big with our great rates. Whether you're looking for a loan or want to grow your money with a certificate, Founders Federal Credit Union can help you move the chains on your financial goals. Not a member? No problem. Visit foundersfcu.com to see if you qualify. Federally insured by NCUA. Membership qualification required. Equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply.
Come for the deals and stay for the quality with Folly Row. From polos to Q-zips to hats and more, their moisture-wicking, quick-drying, and anti-wrinkle apparel is the perfect blend of comfort and fashion for game day. FollyRow.com and at Folly Row on social media. Folly Row. Very good polos.
Our Carolina Orthopedic and Neurosurgical Associates games of the week. Our Kona games of the week, Jerel. 5 great ones from across the state. Let's start with those games and break those down.
Yeah, we'll start with the one that we went to. Went down to Saluda to Bettis Herlong Stadium. And we saw the Batesburg-Leesville Panthers take on the Saluda Tigers. Kevin, this one wasn't much of a contest, to be honest. Batesburg-Leesville mauled these guys. Game of the Big Cats. Panthers were victorious here. I mean, Batesburg started off a little bit slow in the first half, turned the ball over a little bit, but there was no doubt from the opening kickoff, who was the more impressive team here. I mean, this game was dominated, up front. Batesburg-Leesville wins it 28-7. That 7 came, in garbage time at the end of the game, so it could have been a lot worse. Batesburg-Leesville was looking to get their 6th shutout of the year. They were unable to do so. But, Kevin, this was just, Batesburg-Leesville, they used their stars to really take over the game. Offensive and defensive lines were just so dominant at the point of attack. I mean, this was a great showing from a team that really hadn't had, the toughest of competition going into this contest, but they are for real in 2A football.
It was a whooping. It really was. Like you mentioned, Batesburg-Leesville got the ball first, drove right down the field and scored. No problem at all. After that, they kind of let Saluda hang around. They had a couple turnovers. They threw a pick on a ball that I think, Watkins had the guy open, just made not the best throw on that one. And then you had a fumble by Wooden, maybe the next drive as well. But Saluda just could not move the football, man. They hit one big play early on to kind of, get it into the Panthers territory, but couldn't convert, couldn't do anything with it. And after that, it was all Batesburg-Leesville. They go up big at the half. They come out of half, do an onside kick there, recover that, score again. It's 21-0. No problem at all there for those boys. They're playing great football for Coach Lawson. A really impressive team. We were worried all year about Saluda. I know you and I were. We love the defense, worried about the offense. And I thought that maybe after last week, that big showing against Thurman, maybe it was fixed, but it was not fixed on Friday night. Coach Young's bunch just had a problem moving the ball, man. Could not get a lot going the run game or the pass game. The defense was fighting hard, trying hard. JT Lott in the middle is a really good player for them up on the D line there. They got Folks on the back end who had a pick for them as well. So they got some playmakers on that side of the ball, but just couldn't move it offensively. While the Panthers, man, they looked good on both sides. Katie Whitt playing both ways, had 2 touchdown catches, a pick. Watkins sling the ball. the quarterback spot. He's a very mobile guy as well. Amadre Wooden is a load in the backfield, man. A really impressive kid. Looks the part for sure. Had I think a 75-yarder brought back due to a penalty. Still rushed for like $180, $175. The lines were huge. John Sawyer on the defensive side, north-south guy. Big boys up front, man, and they got after it. They played hard. They were coached hard. Coach Lawson, you could hear him getting after it. We were sitting on the Saluda side for a minute. We could hear him yelling across the field. Man, they were fired up for that ball game. A huge region matchup where Saluda won. They could have won the title on Friday.
Sure.
Vicksburg-Leesville, they came to play, set up a chance to clinch it next week against Strom-Thurmond. Man, they were super impressive, I felt like, on Friday night. The only maybe disappointment out of it, Vicksburg-Leesville, the penalties. They got a few penalties they got to clean up a little bit, but from just a play on the field perspective, super impressive by the Panthers.
Most definitely, yeah. I mean, that's a perfect analysis right there. I mean, they just dominated this football game. It was never close. They took a great crowd out of it from Saluda, and Saluda's a really good football team. But again, it's a situation where I think they kind of tricked us last week in that game with Strom-Thurmond, where we thought the offense was fixed, and it just does not appear that they're going to be able to consistently, push the ball down the field and score. And it doesn't matter how good your defense is if you're not, possessing the football and you're not, putting the ball in the end zone or, at least stressing the other team, you're just going to get worn down. And Vicksburg-Leesville, even with the mistakes they made in the first half, they were just able to kind of just do what they do and just take over the football game. It's not over for Saluda. I mean, worst case scenario, if they're going to finish, second in the region or something like that, it appears so. So Vicksburg-Leesville, too, still has work to do. They play Thurmond next week, so we'll see what happens and how it shakes out. Really good football teams in this region, but Batesburg has shown that they're probably the best.
It was really interesting, and I think we talked about it on the sideline, Jerel, Friday, where in that first quarter, the first half, everything it felt like that Saluda needed to happen was kind of going their way. Vicksburg-Leesville throws them a pick. They fumble the ball. Saluda runs a couple trick plays, gets some nice gains on those, but they just still could not capitalize. We're like, man, if they're throwing out the whole bag of tricks this early, getting all the breaks, and they can't get on the board, this is going to be a quick ball game over pretty quickly, and it certainly wasn't a second half. Man, they just did not have the firepower of the horses to compete with Vicksburg-Leesville on Friday. Just a super impressive victory by the Panthers.
Most definitely. Well, let's turn the page on the next game. This is the other one we debated on going to. Could not, unfortunately, make back-to-back trips to the PD, and that was Hartsville and South Florence. This one was a shootout for the majority of this game, going back and forth, but Hartsville's able to pull away late. They win it 54-35 over South Florence to lock up that region championship in Kellytown. Kevin, man, this Hartsville, team, we know what Coach Calabrese likes to do with this scheme. They like to run the ball. They've always got talent there. They've always got dynamic playmakers who get it done. But when we talked about this game on Tuesday, I was convinced, that South Florence would be able to slow them down, and I couldn't have been more wrong.
This is a track meet, man. Super impressive. You mentioned Hartsville. They had a couple, weird games early on. A tie with Carolina Forest, a loss to Camden, and I think a lot of folks, including us, kind of, I wouldn't say wrote them off, but just kind of forgot about them a little bit, like weren't really, super high on them. But the last few weeks, they have been just hammering for it. I think they scored 72 weeks ago. And on the previous show, I was like, sometimes we got to remember that these kids get a lot better throughout the season. They're a different football team. We knew they had talent. They played awesome on Friday. Demarion Coe, a huge game. We talked about him. Always big in special teams. Had a kick return touchdown. Also had a pick six late in that game. Waters did well for them. They threw a touchdown, I believe, early on to Spain. So they were getting it done all three phases and on both sides of the ball as well. Really impressive for them. And South Florence, a team that has also gotten a lot better from earlier on in the year. They were hammering them with the run game earlier. Gilbert had a big game. Leonard had a big game. But they got stopped a time or two in the second half, and Hartsville just did not. I mean, they were able to let them kind of create a two-score lead and just could never catch up to what the Red Foxes were doing, man. I can't say enough about what they did on Friday. Hartsville, that was a big-time statement win. Just awesome to see from Coach Calabrese's bunch. I can't imagine how good of a game plan he called there to kind of negate some of that size up front for South Florence. You mentioned Amari Adams, the Shrine Bowler, the Clemson commit on the defensive line. I'm sure they did some stuff to, get the ball away from him a little bit, to kind of help his lineman out. And I can't, it's a great job by him and that whole Red Fox squad.
I mean, I would say that, but then we kept looking up, and it's Webb Barnes, the linebacker there.
That's true.
Just hammering them. I mean, this kid's 225 pounds. I mean, he's fantastic on the defensive side. They use him over there on offense as well. And I mean, did you see the numbers of him speed, getting clocked over 20 miles per hour, completely getting it done? It just seems like the speed of Hartsville and the athleticism of those guys, which is crazy to say. They were more athletic and, just, out athleted a South Florence bunch that we know is extremely talented on both sides of the ball as well. So just an impressive win. And I just know that Kellytown was rocking.
Had to be an awesome atmosphere. That's one of the coolest places that I've had a chance to go see a game since we've been doing this, man. Just, great environment there. They got the new turf field, this season as well, man. Trying to find the stats here from our buddy Ian Gear, and we had on preseason. He covers the state of high school football as well, works for Catapult. He had some of these numbers here. They had 3 guys for the Red Foxes that broke 21 miles an hour on Friday. Just unbelievable. I think he said they had done, a game each week, more than one game each week all season long. No team that he had covered had more than 2 guys break 20. Hartsville had 6 guys break 20. They just had unreal numbers there from Demarion Coe and Spain and Barnes and Waters. Just unbelievable what they did, man. Just athletes all over the field, both sides of the ball. Hartsville, I think, in that lower state 4A is poised to make a deep, deep run.
The crazy thing about this one, though, Kev, is I could see a rematch here at some point in the playoffs here. I don't think there's going to be a situation where South Florence is just going to go away. Coach Marlowe and his bunch is going to get them going. But Hartsville definitely deserves all the bragging rights. Region championship, just an incredible performance there. But going to another region championship, we flipped down to 1A ball, and this one was over in Richburg. We had Louisville and Lamar. These are 2 teams that had been playing, white hot, down the stretch. Just fantastic football. I went on the Tuesday show. I said I had no idea who was going to win this game. Gave the advantage to Louisville because they were playing at home. They didn't need the home field advantage. They were flat out just phenomenal. They win it 37-7 over Lamar. Just an incredible performance by Coach Usher's bunch.
Hats off to the Lions defense. They held the Silver Foxes to 78 yards of offense, man. Just did not see that coming from what we'd seen the previous few weeks. I knew both teams were playing really good football. I thought we'd see a competitive, tight game. Did not get that at all on Friday. The Lions are just, peaking at the right time. They played so much better last few weeks, since that C.A. Johnson game. They won. They didn't play their best ball, but they've been on a upward trajectory since then. Coach Usher's bunch, man, region champ, I think 3 times in a row now. Just love to see what they're doing. They are ready for a deep playoff run.
Most definitely. And going to a team that we know can get it done, that is Westside. They took on Wren. These are 2 teams as well who have been playing fantastic on the offensive end over there in Anderson. But Westside just able to pull away in the second half. The defense showed some lapses. Special teams showed some lapses in that first half. But the Rams proved to be tough. And they win it 56-28 over the Hurricanes.
A game that, was super high scoring. We turned it on, I think, while we were at the Saluda Batesburg Leesville game, and it was like, I think 35-28 in the first half. We're like, what the hell's going on here? But, man, just a great performance from the Rams defense in the second half. Shutting out Wren was really impressive. A team that can score a lot of points. And we know what Westside's going to do on offense, man. Just so many playmakers. Sherrod Richardson was the big game this week. I think 4 touchdowns in total. Had a kickoff return, a pick, man. Just so many athletes. A huge win for Westside, clinching that region title. Wren, a team that I think can make some noise in the playoffs too, but I think the problem is they're going to go, have to go up against Westside again at some point. But they played a great ball game, but Westside, man, just too much firepower each and every week, it feels like.
Most definitely, man. We'll talk about some stats later from the Rams, but Westside's just phenomenal. And it's I think maybe it was a little shock to them that first half, because their region's not the most difficult. They're going up against a good team, and then they finally just kicked it into gear. It just did what they know how to do, but that's an impressive win for those guys. But flipping down to our SCSA game of the week in 1A, we had Williamsburg and Dorchester. These are 2 of the top teams in that classification, but Williamsburg proved to be too tough. They win it 45-22.
Clinching the region there for Coach Boyd's bunch. That's a big-time win. I think Balder had a big game for them. And Dorchester now has lost 2 in a row. So they're in a bit of a tough spot. The playoffs for SCSA start this week. So Dorchester's got to get it figured out really quickly. But big win for the Stallions. They are playing great football. They have all season long just 1 loss for Coach Boyd's bunch. They're poised for a state title run. It feels like they're big-time win, blowing out those Raiders on Friday night.
Again, our Kona games of the week, we had Batesburg, Leesville knocking off Saluda 28-7. Hartsville in a track meet over South Florence 54-35. Louisville uses a suffocating defense to defeat Lamar 37-7. Westside gets it going in the second half. They pull away and winning 56-28. And Williamsburg, big over Dorchester Academy 45-22 in our Skeeza game of the week. All right, Kevin, let's take a look at our HTC Hometown Connection game of the week. We had a big showdown, good rivalry matchup down in Horry County, and that was Myrtle Beach taking on North Myrtle Beach. The Seahawks are able to win this one 21-6 over the Chiefs. A lot of defense in this one, low scoring, struggle here as you anticipate in a rivalry game. Two teams, one that was getting off the mat, one that had been surging in region play, but it seems like it was a fantastic football game.
No doubt about it. This game was 6-0 late in the third quarter, and the Myrtle Beach has back-to-back pick sixes. Actually picked off Cloninger, the quarterback, 4 times in this game. Great game from the defense for the Seahawks there. A huge win for them, bouncing back after a tough loss to Carolina Forest last week. Now they got to turn around and pull for North Myrtle Beach to beat Carolina Forest this week to set up some kind of tiebreaker. We'll see how that shakes out for them there. And on top of that, Antonio Brown with the big touchdown run. But outside of that, the quarterback Gibson Goodrow had to come out to do a concussion, I think, the second quarter. So they had to, have the Gaddy kid step in to rally on the defensive side and win this ball game when you're missing one of your leaders there. Just an awesome performance from Coach Wilson's bunch, man. That is a huge bounce back win. On the other side, North Myrtle Beach too. That's a solid performance, man. They play tough against a good football team. I think they're a team that is still playing much better than earlier on in the season. Just didn't quite have the firepower to win Friday night. But big winner there for the Seahawks.
I'm not the biggest analytics guy, but when you give up 2 defensive scores, it's virtually impossible to win that football game. But still a great fight shown by North Myrtle Beach there. It's a rivalry game. You're not just going to roll over in that one. But again, it ended up being 21-6 in favor of Myrtle Beach. If you are in Marion, Georgetown, or Horry counties, please reach out to our friends at HTC. They joined our program this year, and they do fantastic work, and we really appreciate them sponsoring our Hometown Connection game each and every week. It's going down to a longtime friend of ours, and that's Hanna Engineering. Let's talk about the Pick'em contest games. We started off in the upstate. We had Greenwood and Hillcrest. This game was supposed to be played earlier in the season. I think it was scheduled to kind of kick off region play early on there. But Greenwood nonetheless is able to pull away from Hillcrest, winning it 38-16. The Rams really just couldn't get anything going on offense, especially on the ground.
Greenwood just jumped all over them early on. I think they were up 21-0 early second quarter, and just Hillcrest couldn't do anything offensively. Yeah, they came back and tried to fight back, but they just did not have enough firepower. The defense just started out too slow. Offense couldn't do enough to keep them in the ball game early on. And a big win for Greenwood, man. A team that has played really good football. I think we've been kind of saying waiting to see them prove it, and what can they really do. And I think this is a statement win for them, a big time win. They've got just that one region loss to JL Man right now, so they're hoping that they might set up a 3-way tiebreaker possibly to see how that region is going to shake out too. But the Eagles and, Tristan Lewis for Coach Liner are playing really good football right now.
Really like what Greenwood's doing. And it's kind of back to the drawing board there for Hillcrest and Coach Swag. The tougher games they've played, they've really struggled in. And, you hope that they can get it going. Especially seems like they're rotating quarterbacks and things like that. So hopefully they can get that figured out, because it's a program that we know has been successful in the past. Kevin, you talked about jumping on somebody. Newberry jumped all over Swansea. They won this one 45-0. Coach Jeter's bunch. Both of these teams, we'll say it, they've kind of been up and down this year. It's been a roller coaster, but it was definitely a peak moment for Newberry on Friday night.
They made the switch going to Caldwell full-time at quarterback, and I think that's been a good thing for them. They were kind of rotating him and Satterwhite a little bit earlier on in the year. Now it's Caldwell fully let Satterwhite focus on the defensive linebacker spot there for them, and Caldwell is just playing great football, man. They've got tons of talent around, and we know that. And this is a big-time performance, big-time win. Jump all those guys, huge offensive showing there. They're a team that I think is laying in the weeds as well, going to 3A playoffs, who could make some good noise there in the lower state.
We'll talk about another team laying in the weeds, but they're region champions, and that's the Powdersville Patriots. Coach Muster's bunch really got off the mat. They started off slow, losing 3. They've won their next 6 contests, including this one over St. Joe's, 28-21. Seems like they've really figured some things out. Played fantastic football this second half of the season, and just couldn't be more impressed with the Patriots have been able to rally around and really get it done these last few weeks.
Man, what they have done offensively, especially, I think is where the big changes come. I feel like they've been playing pretty good defense all year long, but the offense has really gotten going now. The Waldrop kids playing well for them, just getting it done. I think leaning a little bit more on the run game than they were earlier in the season as well. They're on quite the hot streak now. Clinched the region title this week. Coach Muster, Coach Nimmer, and the guys there have done a fantastic job turning that team around.
Moving over to the CSRA, this is a big-time rivalry matchup as well. It's North Augusta and Midland Valley. Obviously, Midland Valley not having the season that they want to, but you can always get up for a game like this. Unfortunately, they fell short. North Augusta is able to win it 45-21. That offense at North Augusta has really gotten going these last few weeks. Michael Doe has been fantastic. You read some stats about him scoring touchdowns in bunches the last few games, but it seems like they've really turned the corner, and they're doing some great things as we go down the stretch here.
They really are, man. And that's the thing, they have two of the better playmakers, I would say, in the state in the backfield. Like those two guys, Tillman and Doe, can take it to the house every time they touch the football, man. They're a team that nobody's going to want to play when the playoffs roll around. They are so electrical on that side of the football. Defense has been pretty solid all season. I think Tillman scored, 5 touchdowns on Friday night in that big win. Doe has been getting all the touchdowns lately, but Tillman had a big game there on Friday. They get to avenge that loss from last year against Midland Valley. They came down to the wire. Great win for Coach Bush's squad there, man. Just a super, super impressive game from them, and just they're a dangerous team, very dangerous team.
You mentioned a team that nobody wants to play, and I'm going to show you the South Point Stallions. They go down to R&E and put it on them. They win this game 56-6. Will Wilson's come back. It did not matter in this one. South Point is fantastic, and this is one of the ones I was really looking forward to, Kev, because you had a fantastic quarterback matchup here with Cam McMillan and Wilson there, and it just was completely one-sided. This South Point team, we saw them a few weeks ago when they played Camden, and they have been on an absolute roll since McMillan has really been inserted as a full-time starter there at QB. There has not been a team that I think has been more impressive these last few weeks than South Point.
They are just hammering everyone. I mean, running the ball with Pickett Hicks, throwing the ball with McMillan, the defense with Currents, and those guys they're playing so good on both sides of the football. It's just not non-competitive football games, just hammering teams, making that, if like it's a statement win every week, Claire just knocking off whoever's in their way, and it's just not even competitive. Just a great win for those boys.
4A playoffs are just going to be fantastic. I cannot wait to watch those. But yeah, South Point winning that one 56-6 is highly impressive. Again, those Hannah Engineering Pick'em contest games, we had Greenwood over Hillcrest 38-16. Newberry defeating Swansea 45-0. Powdersville over St. Joe's 28-21. North Augusta in a rivalry game over Midland Valley 45-21. And again, South Point all over Richland Northeast 56-6.
At HTC, we're here to keep you connected. Here to provide reliable fiber optic internet with free, fast, and secure HTC Smart Wi-Fi. HTC, here to connect.
With 3 convenient locations in Spartanburg, Duncan, and Greenville, Carolina Orthopedic and Neurosurgical Associates, Kona, offers the most advanced training and experience in orthopedic surgery, neurosurgery, sports medicine, and pain management in the upstate. Go to kona.care to learn more.
Jerel, let's take a look now at our Players of the Week, brought to you by the Georgia Agency. As always, guys, send us those nominations each and every week on Facebook, on X, or Instagram, or email, whatever you want to do. If you send it to us, we will read it on the show. They may not win the award, but we will read it out, and then we'll put them in our blog that comes out as well. So definitely keep getting those to us. Even in the playoffs, we'll do playoff performance. We'll kind of show off some of those big stat lines too. So continue to do that throughout the playoffs. But Jerel, read us some of those big stat lines from our Players of the Week, brought to you by the Georgia Agency.
Yes, the nominee list this week is massive, and I am happy to oblige reading the list here. We got Trey Segura, the running back at Burns, had 2 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown in their big win over Bowling Springs. Sherrod Richardson, kind of the lost superstar at Westside, does it all for these guys. Had 3 rushing TDs, a kick return TD, and a big pick in that game against Wren. Juju Edwards, he's really 4-year career, has been an absolute stud for South Aiken. 29 carries, 338 yards, and 4 TDs to put him at exactly 2,000 rushing yards on the season. BJ Montgomery at Gray Collegiate goes 130 on the ground with 3 TDs. Tyler Waller, the QB there at Gray, goes 10 of 14 for 134, 2 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. Maurice Anderson at Dutch Fork might be the most forgotten about superstar running back we have in the state. Had 66 yards on the ground with 2 TDs. Also had 6 catches for 108 and another touchdown. Donovan Murph, the do-it-all receiver at Irmo, had 11 catches for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns. Christian Jackson at Ridgeview, 2 TD catches and a punt return TD. We had Andrew Turner from Hammond, goes 13 of 18 for 235, 3 TDs, and a rushing touchdown. Dre Dobson at Brooklyn Casey had 3 TD passes and a rushing touchdown. Reese Price at Wren goes 31 carries for 157 and 2 touchdowns. Carson Bryant had 4 catches for 114 and 2 TDs. We got Deshaun Scriven at Crestwood had 3 picks, including a pick 6. Caleb Ford at Cardinal Newman, 31 totes on the ground, 255 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Justin Joint at Sherraw, 24 carries for 244 yards and 3 TDs. Nick Holmes of Greer had 169 on the ground and 2 TDs. Landon Sharp of White Knoll had 360 total yards and 3 touchdowns. The gunslinger there for the Timberwolves. Jeremiah Singleton at Pinewood Prep had 11 totes for 283. Also had an 81-yard kickoff return, 3 total touchdowns there. We got McKinley Wallace of Latta, goes 226 on the ground with 4 TDs. They had a huge win over Johnsonville. We have a Camden brigade here. Got Wyatt Thompson, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing TD. Tylen Drakeford had a touchdown reception and a passing TD. And Logan Freeman with a pick 6 for the Camden Bulldogs. Cam McMillan at South Point, former winner, goes 17 of 23 for 265, 4 TDs, and a rushing touchdown. That vaunted Louisville defense held Lamar to 78 total yards of offense and obviously no touchdowns. Zach Rogers, the QB there at Louisville, goes 13 of 18 for 240, a touchdown. Also had 11 totes for 86 yards and a touchdown. Jordan Strong, also for Louisville, 21 rushes for 150 and 2 TDs. And Jai House at Louisville had a rushing touchdown. We got Requarius House at Louisville, 6 carries for 142 and a touchdown. Jalen Culp also with 2 catches there, so we want to give him a shout out. Stone Furry at Chapin goes 9 catches for 140 and 2 TDs. Colby Richardson, quarterback at PD, goes 7 of 9 for 229 yards, 11 rushes for 75 yards and 3 TDs. Also 6 tackles and a TFL. Going to Demarion Coe at Hartsville, had a kick return TD and a pick 6, one of the coolest pick 6s you'll ever see, so find that video. And Jaden Cummings, the quarterback at Somerville, goes 14 of 21 for 203, a TD, 10 rushes for 88 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
Lots of great stats there, Jerel. Lots of big-time performances, but we had to go with 4 winners again this week, man. You know, we've seen so many great numbers lately. Look, we got to spread out love a little bit here. So the 4 winners from this week are our players of the week. We've got Grayson Clary at Daniel, 29 for 33, 354, 5 touchdowns. He's been doing it each and every week. Jerel, he had more touchdowns than incompletions last week. Big-time game from Grayson. A.J. Brand, the quarterback at Irmo, the Virginia Tech commit, had a massive game, 18 for 26, 196 passing, 5 touchdowns there, 11 carries, 263, 2 touchdowns there, and a touchdown catch, 8 total touchdowns. Also crossed the 10,000 career yard mark on Friday, so great job by AJ there. Congrats to him. Aiden Manavian down at Oceanside Collegiate, 29 for 38, 387, 6 touchdowns as the Land Sharks clinched the region. And then Ethan Alfing at Dutch Fork. You know, Drew, a lot of times at Dutch Fork, think about the defense, but the offense for them can play some ball too. Alfing went 21 for 27, 417, and 4 touchdowns for Coach Knott's bunch there. 4 great winners this week. Grayson Clary at Daniel, A.J. Brand at Irmo, Aiden Manavian at Oceanside Collegiate, and Ethan Alfing at Dutch Fork. As always, guys, Players of the Week brought to you by the George Agency. Continue to send us those stats each and every week. Drill, any thoughts on those 4 and just the monster numbers they put up?
Man, it's just crazy. We were deliberating the fact that we hadn't had AJ Brand. I just assumed that we had just a a great way to kind of cap off his career to show with 8 touchdowns and us being able to give him player of the week. Ethan Offing, he's really been growing up, kind of got thrown into the fire last year, has really progressed. Grayson Clary at Daniel has just gotten better each and every week. He's putting up huge numbers. I think he's going to be a bona fide P4, D1 prospect here in the future. And then when you go to big play Aiden Manavian there, man, at Oceanside, the sophomore, man, he's just been fantastic since he started. He got inserted into that starting lineup there for Oceanside, just played really good football.
A couple notes I've got here. I mentioned A.J. Brand going past 10,000 career yards. Will Wilson at Arnie also did that this week, so really cool for both those guys to cross that threshold, a huge number there. Tanner Watkins at Batesburg-Leesville became the school's all-time touchdown leader, and I believe he's pretty close on the passing yards as well. Hadn't quite got there, but the TD record, he has achieved that. Any other notes that you've got, Jerel, from week 10?
I did see Coach Reggie Shaw. I want to give him a shout out at Burns. They had a big win over Bowling Springs. I think he had its 60th career win there at Burns. So that's a big time win for the program. And they started off slow, but they've really played great football all year. They've battled more than any team that I think we've seen this season.
Looking down at stock up, the teams that impressed us, teams that really made a big time statement, and we think could do a little bit more this year than maybe we thought going into last week. And one of those is Burns, the team you just mentioned, a big win over Bowling Springs, a team that has just kind of found their identity in playing really good defense and running the football with the quarterback and the running back, and now Segura back as well. That's a huge plus for them. Big win for those guys. Cane Bay, back-to-back weeks with upsets. The Cobras are playing good football, Jerel. And then Clover, a win that I did not see coming over Catawba Ridge. Coach Woolbright's bunch maybe peaking at the right time. That's a good Catawba Ridge team there. Big win for the Blue Eagles.
You had White Knoll, big win over Lexington, a region rival there. Is that their first win in region play, or have they won another one?
I believe it is. I can't remember how that Chapin game went. Other than that, yeah.
I'll have to look at it. I'd have to look at it. But, yeah, nonetheless, a great win for those guys. Hartsville, obviously, just completely dismantling, South Florence there in the second half, running all over those guys the entire game. And Bluffton, they knocked off May River. I think that's for second place in that region. But May River is a team that we had in our top 5, and that's a huge win for Bluffton.
Oceanside Collegiate, we mentioned Monavian stat line. They get a big win over Orangeburg Wilkinson to clinch that region. Just a blowout there for the Land Sharks. And what they've done really, Jerel, since Coach Wilkes stepped down, they have not missed a beat. And that was a worry that we had, like, how's that going to affect them? They have been continuing to play great football. Certainly a team to watch in 3A. Christ Church, a team that really struggled earlier on in the year, had some key injuries to Jackson Rep and some other guys there. They get a big win over their rival, Southside Christian, on Friday. Newberry, you mentioned them earlier, big win over Swansea, a team that hopefully is getting hot at the right time there for Coach Jeter.
Couple teams that we've talked about earlier in the program, Batesburg-Leesville, huge win over Saluda. Still got to knock off Thurman this week to lock up that crown, but well on their way to winning the region. Louisville, they did lock up their region title in a huge win over Lamar. Couple of teams I want to shout out. Gray Collegiate had a lot of adversity this week, had a big-time win. And Bishop England, Coach Hall and his bunch, we talk about them this year, moving up to 4A, region champions there. I think they moved to 8-2 on the season. Just an impressive showing for those guys.
The last one I've got is Richard Wynn. A huge win for them. Charlie Bonds and crew dismantled Wardlaw to win that region and get home field in the playoffs. Great win there for the Eagles. Flipping down to stock down now, and a lot of these teams, Jerel, are on the bad side of one of these stock up teams, honestly. Bowling Springs, a team that we all were super high on early in the year, have been our top 5 for quite a while. They've suffered some tough losses lately, and that loss to Burns on Friday was no different. Tough loss there for the Bulldogs. And then Swansea, you talked to them earlier, a team that has been tough to figure out. They started off really hot, but have kind of fumbled down the stretch here. Coach Fox still doing a great job in his first year there, but Swansea, a tough loss to Newberry on Friday.
Go down to the PD for 2 more of these. You got Lamar. They're really surging. Playing fantastic football here. And just, not that they lost. There's no shame in losing to Louisville, but losing by 30 is tough, and not breaking 100 yards of offense is pretty difficult. And then South Florence, it's another team. We've had them either in the top 5 or fringe all year, have boatloads of talent on that sideline, and then just could not keep up with Hartsville. So did not expect that scoreline. So now you're kind of going to flip that. Hartsville wins the region. They're going to have to go on the road at some point in the playoffs if they make it far enough.
Yeah, that is our stock up, stock down segment, Jerel. Let's do shout out to some of the friends of the program before we look at the Folly Row question of the week. The George Agency has been serving the insurance needs of South Carolina for over 40 years. They're a full-line insurance agency concentrated in employee benefits and health insurance with an office in Mullins and Murrells Inlet, but they can help you all across the state. They have clients in Greer, Rock Hill, Columbia, and more, so wherever you are, they can help. Give Bradley, Wayne, Richard, and the crew a call or check them out online at thegeorgeagency.net. That's thegeorgeagency.net. Our Folly Row question, Jerel, what do you have for us this week in Week 10?
This one's more open-ended, and it's kind of based off of what, the high school league did this week. Obviously, we had some rulings on eligibility, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds about the specific programs or anything like that. But the issue that I kind of had with this situation is the timeline. The two that I've seen since following, the two eligibility issues I've seen, obviously, was a couple years ago with Ridgeview, and then obviously this year. When it comes to the timeline, of course there's, 50 to 100 kids in these programs most of the time. And it's not just the ones that are effective. And you have a lot of the seniors too. And so I just look at it, why are we having these eligibility hearings so late in the season? Do you think there's a solution of, once it's verified preseason, we let it go? Is there maybe a mid-season checkpoint to where we can kind of give these guys an opportunity to fix something? I know it's kind of tricky with each situation, but is there any way to kind of fix the timeline of these hearings so that these teams are not scrambling at the end of the season to try to save their seasons or just being crushed, right before the playoffs start?
And I think the issue, Drew, I don't think it's necessarily a high school league thing. I think it's these teams that are purposely waiting to turn these teams in until last minute. Every year, if something like this is going on, people have heard rumblings all year long, throughout the summer, throughout the season. Obviously this year, Marlboro County, people heard rumblings. Same thing with Ridgeview a couple years back. If you're going to do it and it's there, that's what, makes me upset when the other teams that have the information want to wait and sit on it and hold it until so late. 2 years ago, we saw Ridgeview, I guess 3 years ago now, find out the day of the game for the region title that they got a kid that may be ineligible, and that, it's having to go through a whole thing there. And then, this year, similar situation, you got Marlboro County playing for a region title potentially that night. They find out that day they've got kids ineligible. So I don't know what you do, because I think it's really not, it's not a high school league thing, unless you're going to say, hey, once these kids are checked as eligible, if you don't turn them in by this date, we're not going to check. I don't know what you do. It's a tough spot because I guess with the new rules, technically, if you forfeit 2 games, you're out of the playoffs anyway due to an eligible player. So, I guess anytime you can do it, and it doesn't do the team any good if you don't do it with, after the first week anyway. So it's a really tough spot there, because I think really it comes down to the teams who have the information, who won't get them in trouble, are waiting until later on in the season to kind of benefit them more and just really crush the other team's season.
Yeah, that's the thing too. And that's what's hard for me, is because obviously, I'll say it, 99% of the time, it's parents or adults making these decisions that's affecting children.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, it's a game, but it's a game that we all love. If you're listening to our program right now, you love the game of football, especially high school football. And so you don't want a situation where that's taken away from you, when you've worked so hard for something. Because it's not just the games. You start prepping for the season, months before you even get the, fall camp. So it's just a lot of work that goes into it for everyone involved. And I just hate it for the kids, man. That just, it always makes me upset to see that it's happening here. I just wish there was some sort of fail safe to where we're not doing this right at the end, because there are some kids who are doing the right things. There are some parents and adults that are doing the right thing, and it kind of just ruins it when we get to the end of the season and they don't get to compete, especially for the playoffs, and especially abruptly, you're a senior and you play at X school, you never get to play again because of a rule. And again, I'm not advocating for breaking rules, but I think about the interest of the kids in the communities and things like that.
Another thing is I would like some clarity on what the timeline from the high school league is. What has to happen for them to open an investigation?
Sure.
What does that take? Because, like I said, typically when this stuff happens, everybody has heard rumors or rumblings all season long. What do they have to open? Does it have to be another coach has to call or sign a paper to say, hey, this is what's going on? Can it be, I don't know what starts that process. So I do wonder if there's a way to speed it up possibly, just so that maybe a team could somehow save a season if they do have a big situation. I don't know. Because we've seen teams this year, you mentioned, Berkeley, they had to forfeit their win over Ashley Ridge due to an eligible player, but I believe they called it themselves early on. If they had not called that, they're up the river without a paddle there. Is that the saying? Is that what it is? Up the river, without a paddle? I don't know. Something like that.
Some of them are more profane than others.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep it PG here on the program.
Yeah, you're the Kids Bop version, so it's similar.
So I just wish I knew more about what went into getting the investigation process started and things like that, because looking back at that Ridgeview situation 2 years ago, man, I think it was another school, another district literally hired an investigator to do the work for the high school league, but yet that doesn't come out until last week of the season somehow that this has been done. Like, why is that not done earlier on in the year? I don't know, man. It's a big mess. Like, you're never going to please everybody, of course, but like you said, you really just hate it for the kids that don't have any issues or were doing things the right way. That's the ones you feel bad for, of course.
Most definitely. It's just heartbreaking. So, yeah. Anyways, but the only gripe I have with the high school league is to cut these hearings shorter and make sure you understand all of the bylaws if you're a member of the committee. That's the only thing that I request from those guys.
I think we got a couple more coming this week, Jerel. So if you want to tune in, I think we may have some more action here this week or maybe next week as well. I think one appeal to a appellate panel possibly, then also another appeal just to the executive committee too. So we may have some good viewing this week to tune into.
I've had my fill. I think I'll pass and just wait for I'll find some live tweets on Twitter or something like that and just catch up that way once the ruling's been handed down.
Yeah, certainly always interesting. No matter what they're talking about, no matter what schools it are, you always get some grade A content coming out of those for sure. But
100%.
Man, it's been a great week. Obviously you mentioned midweek we had some great hearings to check out. We had some great football on Friday, man. It's been a fantastic week of football. As always, guys, appreciate you checking us out. Listen to our recap show. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter /X, Instagram, YouTube, and more at Movin Chains, MOVINCHAINS, movinchains.com. Our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Our Week 11 preview show will go live about 7:15 on Tuesday on Facebook and YouTube. Hope you guys tune in for that. We'll break down a little bit smaller slate this week, but we'll break down the big games and all the games across the state on Tuesday. Our recap show comes out on Sunday/Monday. We've got a great coach interview coming out this week. Got a great playoff preview for the lower state coming out probably next week. Working on some more stuff too for that. So definitely a lot of good stuff all the time on our social pages. Tune into those. Get your MTC gear right now. I wore my shirt and my hoodie on Friday, man. It's getting to be hoodie weather. We got a gray one and kind of a lighter gray /white hoodie, a black toboggan, a gray toboggan, a gray t-shirt, navy blue t-shirt, black t-shirt, and pink t-shirt. All kinds of Richardson hats. Really great quality stuff there. You can email mtcgear.sc@gmail.com. You can message us on Facebook or X or Instagram, whatever you want to do. We've got photos of it all posted on our social pages. Get you guys some of that now and support the boys. Help us make the show bigger and better. Jerel, any final thoughts on Week 10 as we wrap up?
Week 10, man, it was a lot of fun. I'm just happy I had a good pick'em week for the first time in a long time, so that was fun. Seeing some comers and goers here at the end, so see who's going to get hot, make a playoff run, and who's going to be going the other way. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to a Week 11 preview show. We've never done that, so it'll be a lot of fun to do that one as well. Like Kevin said, go get some merch, not only from us, our friends at Folly Row. Like, subscribe, follow on all social medias. You want to see a food review Friday, so that's coming at you as well. So we really appreciate everybody for listening and really getting excited for these playoff games here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, shout out to our friends at Batesburg, Leesville, and Saluda. We got to see, obviously our buddy Chris Smith there at Batesburg, Leesville, Quinn from Batesburg, Leesville as well.
Love talking to Chris.
Coach Lawson there for the Panthers. A few other folks we met, a couple fans. I cannot remember the names. I'm sorry, guys. We met so many folks on Friday. It was a lot of fun. Obviously, on the Saluda side, we had, Coach Young there that we know pretty well, and Miss Wilder, the AD. Our buddy Ethan Campbell was there. Got to chat with him for a good while after the ball game. Our buddy Cam and Kurt and and Brian King was there as well. So lots of folks we got to say hello to. So that was a great experience down there at Saluda as always, and a fun atmosphere.
Happy birthday,
which is
right?
not his birthday, but apparently, but Landon told us it was. So that was great. That was great. But Moving the Chains is always brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. For Jerel Hendricks, I'm Kevin Thomas. This has been our Week 10 recap show brought to you by Folly Row, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Get ready for the ultimate South Carolina high school football experience with Movin The Chains. From previews to recaps, we've got you covered. Dive into our expert preview shows, predicting winners and sharing insights. Then join us post-game for the thrilling recaps, exclusive interviews, and highlights you won't find anywhere else. Plus, connect with fellow fans on our Friday night spaces on Twitter/X. No one covers South Carolina high school football like us. Join us at Movin Chains on all social media platforms and visit movinchains.com today.